Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I must thank Muslim Institute for inviting me to participate in this dialogue on Junagadh. I was invited 5 years back in 2016 to speak on Junagadh. This time when I prepared my notes, I realized that it was in the best interest of Pakistan to have kept its rightful claim on the state of Junagadh alive all these years at all forums. It appears that at that momentous moment of partition, the war in Kashmir overshadowed our concern on Junagadh. Our claim on Junagadh was based on an instrument of accession signed by the Muslim Nawab, who was ruling a Hindu majority. India's claim on Kashmir was based on an instrument of accession where a Hindu Raja was ruling a Muslim majority population. Geographically, and more importantly, Kashmir was contiguous to Pakistan, whereas Junagadh, a coastal state in Gujarat, had only connection to Pakistan through sea, with a minimum distance of 360 kilometers. So with a Hindu majority population, with no land corridor, Junagadh at that time appeared as an unwinnable proposition. But it was not the lack of contiguity that diminished Pakistan's interest in projecting its claim on Junagadh. It was actually the state of dominion itself. On that day of independence, West Pakistan, that is today's Pakistan, was less than half its size. On that day, the 15 princely states that were to accede to Pakistan and lied within the geographical map of Pakistan, only one, that is Amarkot, ruled by a Hindu Maharaja, today's Umarkot in Sindh, acceded to Pakistan. More importantly, princely states like Bahawalpur, Khairpur, Chitral, Swat, Makran, Kalat, Kharan were still contemplating their moves. Junagadh had the distinction of being the second state to accede to Pakistan in September 1947, but it was not contiguous. The leadership in Pakistan remained busy cajoling other 50 princely states to join Pakistan, which took 6 months of negotiations, enticements, and persuasions to bring those states into Pakistan fold. It was only on 27th of March 1948 that Khanate of Kalat, the last state, agreed to sign instrument of accession with Pakistan. This was followed by a last long procedure of integration. Hunza and Nagar were the last states to integrate into Pakistan on 25th September 1974. As a matter of fact, the process of consolidation was only completed 71 years after independence, when FATA was merged into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in 2018, where integration process is still slowly going on. Besides the birth pangs of accession and integration with the fragile condition of country's economy, burdened by a sea of refugees and a nascent governance structure to handle every contingency, including bullying by a much larger, belligerent, and more resourceful neighbor. On the other side of the divide, the Indian leadership inherited secure boundaries and a functioning civilian and military bureaucracy with a British viceroy to throw its weight around. I shall come to Junagadh a bit later, as I think a brief historical perspective of Indian behavior at that instant of partition is important, which consequently had a lasting negative impact on our relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, part of the challenge of understanding history is to put together the ideas and beliefs held by the decision makers at that particular moment. Since without understanding personalities, it is difficult to grasp the context of the events, I recommend a glance at two important Indian leaders who, besides Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, steered India in post-partition period. They were Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And I'm happy our new generation is here to just get acquainted with these names and the events. Mr. Nehru, though a polished and bright person, had an enigmatic personality. His critics thought he was stubborn and inflexible. Shashi Tharoor thinks he had utopian views. Rajesh Talwar, in his book, The Vanishing of Subhash Bose, Mystery Unlocked, published in 2020, considers Nehru as paranoid, deceitful, and conspiratorial. Srinath Raghavan, in his book, War and Peace in Modern India, which is an analysis of the Indian foreign policy during Nehru's term as Prime Minister, writes, I quote, Indian Prime Minister had been self-righteous and intransigent in dealing with neighbors and had no qualms about use of force. In his book, he quotes A.G. Noorani as calling Nehru a mindless and arrogant hardliner. Abdul Ghafoor Majid Noorani, popularly known as A.G. Noorani, is an Indian historian and political commentator, and he writes in our Dawn newspaper as well. Wrote about Nehru's obduracy in his archival book, India-China Boundary Problem. He writes, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, his stubbornness shut the door to negotiations on the Indo-China boundary, July 1954. Second personality, Mr. Nehru was assisted by his assertive Deputy Prime Minister, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who soon after partition refused to release 64 crore rupees to Pakistan that India had agreed to transfer at partition. Sardar Patel was the key force behind integrating over 500 princely states with the dominion of India. He was therefore known as the Iron Man of India. It was Mr. Patel who ordered the invasion of Junagadh in November 1947. Now, Chairman Sir, it may be a coincidence that Jawaharlal Nehru was a Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmir got into problem, and both Gandhi and Sardar Patel belong to Gujarat, where Junagadh is located. With Mr. Nehru and Sardar Patel setting the direction of Indian foreign policy, one observes India emerging as a colonizer state, ironically, soon after its own independence. We observe when it came to weaker states, India never exercised restraint. Instead, military preparedness and its willingness to use force against smaller neighbors became the foremost instrument of Indian foreign policy. One of the reasons it so happened was because the partition put in place a buffer zone in the shape of Pakistan between India and highlands in the west, which had remained for a millennium, over a millennium, the convenient route for invading India. This was the buffer zone that British Empire had sought with Russian Empire in the shape of a compliant Afghanistan. So on 15th August 1947, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in history, India emerged as a nation and one with a ring of weaker states around it. This sudden realization of physical security encouraged India to embark on a series of annexations through coercion and physical use of force. A number of states that did not want to join India after the collapse of British Empire wanted to remain independent or join the dominion of Pakistan. They were bullied to sign instrument of accession or were simply invaded. Travancore, Jodhpur, and Bhopal, they wanted to remain independent after partition, were coerced by Hindu leaders and as well as Viceroy Lord Mountbatten to join India. These three states, under duress, declared their willingness to join Dominion of India in July 1947. Hyderabad, the wealthiest and most powerful state with a Hindu majority population and ruled by a Muslim Nizam, chose independence, that it decided not to join either India or Pakistan. In a blatant violation of all international norms, Hyderabad was invaded by Indian Army in a campaign codenamed Operation Polo in September 1948, killing, according to Indian inquiry, between 30 to 40,000 people. The independent states put the death toll at 200,000 or maybe over. We hear about Nawab of Junagadh signing the instrument of accession on 13 September 47 in the presence of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. In the following weeks, when Junagadh resisted Indian coercion, a blockade was imposed on the state, rioting was engineered to cripple the economy, and on 9th November, Sardar Patel sent in the army to take over the state, completing the occupation. Next, in a Machiavellian move, India installed a governor and held a referendum in February 1948 to predetermine where the result was obviously predetermined. Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan wrote to his Indian counterpart, Jawaharlal Nehru, reminding him about the violation of principles of partition and accusing him of naked aggression, asked him to undo the annexation of Junagadh and its vassal states, but India chose to look the other way. India justified the use of force on the grounds that the majority of population in the state was Hindu, and they wanted to accede to India. Ironically, it applied a different criteria in regard to conflict in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, arguing that Hindu Maharaja of Kashmir had the legitimate right, authority to accede to India, with total disregard to the wishes of 80% of the people who were Muslims. We see geographical security, the ring of weaker states, and nonchalant international community encouraged this clever contradictory behavior of India. What we see is that imperialism served India well in its first year of independence. In fact, throughout its recent history, India has failed to measure up to the responsibilities of a peaceful neighbor. Instead, it has persistently pursued acts of naked colonial aggression and fake referendums against weak and defenseless neighbors. After Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir, India occupied Manipur in northeastern region in October 1949, Goa in December 1961, and Sikkim again in northeast in 1975. One thing that we learned from conflicts in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and in Vietnam, and in Nagorno-Karabakh is that occupation is not a sustainable act of policy. But it is one lesson that powers with imperial mindset like India failed to learn. I mentioned Nagorno-Karabakh in the context of Junagadh as it has historical similarities where the dispute between Azerbaijan and Armenia was both ethnic and territorial. The dispute over Nagorno-Karabakh and 7 territories surrounding Nagorno-Karabakh is almost a century old. The Nagorno-Karabakh population is mainly of Armenian descent, where the people living around this enclaves are Azeris and Muslims. It was about 3,000 square kilometers of Azer territory occupied by Armenia on the pretext that Nagorno-Karabakh had Armenians in majority. After more than a century-long conflict, the Second Azer-Armenian War broke out in 2020. Finally, towards the end, Russia brokered an agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which gave all the disputed territories, including Nagorno-Karabakh, back to Azerbaijan. It was the relentless persistence of Azerbaijan that God restored to it its rightful territories. If a century-old occupation can be vacated, so can be Kashmir and Junagadh. Ladies and gentlemen, in the background that I have just placed before you, I see by unveiling new political map in 2020, Pakistan brings in sharp contrast Indian dichotomous approach over invasion, occupation, and annexation of land that did not legally belong to it. As mentioned earlier, coercion and use of force have become perennial instruments of foreign policy for India. Even today, India sees its fascist regime does not believe in the obsolescence of a major war in the modern international system, as it continues to have festering border disputes with all its neighbors. But it hardly means that Pakistan gives up its legitimate claims both on Junagadh and Kashmir. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.